Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 94, noes 15.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 596A, calendar number 38, Mr. Lenthal. An act to amend the tax law and the state finance law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 99, noes 8.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 763B, calendar number 40, Mr. Miller. An act to amend the tax law and the state finance law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Thank you. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 107, noes 5.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 1218A, calendar number 58, Ms. Titus. An act to amend the tax law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect January 1st.
Clerk will record the vote. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 100, noes 17.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have a number of pieces of business yet before we conclude, so I'd ask people if they would please give us their attention. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with provisions of Rule 9, Section 1 of the Assembly Rules, I would like to make notice that on or after Monday, March 21st, 2016, the majority intends to amend numerous sections of the Assembly Rules, including the following: Rule 2, Section 2, and A, new Section 4. Rule 3, Sections 1, 2, 3, and 5. Rule 4, Sections 2, 4, 5, 6, and 12. Rule 5, Sections 2 and 4. Rule 7, Section 2. Rule 8, Section 3. Rule 10A, and a new Section 3. And these will be made available, obviously, the rules changes as proposed will be made available very soon. So I want to make those notice provisions in accordance with our rules. And members have on their desks an A calendar. I would like now to advance the A calendar.
On Mr. Morelli's motion, the A calendar is advanced. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to ask you to take up resolutions. I would remind members that among the privileged resolutions that we'll be taking up will include one honoring the works and achievements of Chancellor Merrill Tisch, member of the Board of Regents, and I know Ms. Nolan and others may wish to speak on that, so let's take up those resolutions now, sir.
Certainly, we'll take up Resolution 1078. Clerk will read.
Resolution number 1078, Ms. Nolan, legislative resolution honoring Dr. Merrill H. Tisch for her many years of distinguished service to the New York State Board of Regents.
Ms. Nolan, on the resolution.
Yes, thank you,
Members?
Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. I think it's very important to take a moment today, especially as we sort of get near the end of Women's History Month, to recognize and honor Merrill Tisch for her tremendous accomplishments on behalf of the children of our state, her dedication to the children of our state, and her great work on behalf of so many in the field of education. The first woman to serve as Chancellor of the Board of Regents, and I might point out, colleagues, the Regents really came into existence by 1784. There was already a group of people that the legislature incorporated to be regents. One of them, by the way, was the mayor of the city of New York, but that's another story. They've changed over the years in various groups and configurations, but the group that we know today as the regents has existed for many, many years, and yet it was not until 1927 that the legislature saw fit to put a woman on the Board of Regents. So in many ways, Merrill Tisch, like many of the women who've served in that job, and there have only been a few, made history in an area that is so often associated traditionally with women, females as teachers, as caregivers, as people taking care of children. She has had a tremendous tenure of service, 20 years working on behalf, and just as a personal aside, I don't know anyone with a more intense work ethic than Merrill Tisch personally. In the years that I became chairman of this great education committee, chairwoman of this great education committee, I can tell you the times that Merrill Tisch called me early in the morning to share a concern, to talk about an issue. I found her always to be open, willing to discuss things, a very intense vision of excellence for all children in our state. Her work on Race to the Top, though sometimes controversial, is controversial for the best reasons. She wants the best and wanted the best in her tenure for every child in our state, every child learning and achieving to their highest potential. So it's very appropriate that this legislature takes a moment to pause in our deliberations and honor her. The resolution is lengthy and documents her professional career, but I just want to say personally, on behalf of myself and many members of the committee, we want to wish Dr. Tisch all the best in whatever she does in the future, but we know that it will continue to be an intense focus and commitment to the children of our state and to the families of our state, an intense dedication and knowledge about the education field. And so, Merrill, we thank you for all your service, and colleagues, thank you for letting me speak on the resolution today.
Mr. Weprin on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, am proud to say that I have known Merrill Tisch for many years and consider her a good friend. When I was in the City Council for 8 years and chaired the Finance Committee, I worked very closely with her on so many not-for-profits in New York City and so many cultural and art institutions in New York City. She served on the board of many of them, on the New York Public Library, on many art institutions and not-for-profits in New York City. We served together as well before I was an elected official on a not-for-profit dealing with poverty, and we served together for many years. She comes from a very philanthropic family, a family that's very involved in New York City, has been for many years, and entered government for this position kind of as a volunteer for all the right reasons. And as she said recently in a New York Times profile that was done within the last week, probably her biggest regret is trying to do too much too soon. But I have to say, knowing Merrill Tisch as I do, she did everything she did for the right reasons and for the children of New York State. And I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor of this resolution and to honor Merrill today. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Arroyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the honor and the privilege of being close to Ms. Tisch, a woman that was and is a great professional, and she has so much respect for everybody. Sometimes I have to speak with her being angry, because you know me, when I have to say something, I'm going to tell. But she has the decency and the capacity to understand why I was angry. Because we were working together to help the children and the students and other people in the state of New York. I think that she made a path in education in this state that everybody should follow, because she not only represents New York City and our area in the regions, but she collects money and brings millions of dollars for programs in education to our state. Matters that belong to us, and she used to do it. I am so glad that God gave me the opportunity to meet this kind of woman. We need many more like her. God bless her, wherever she is. And I have to say, we need more women like this one in the area of education in order to help our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Arroyo. Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Merrill Tisch is a brilliant and passionate person who devoted much of her life to the children of the state of New York. I got to know her when I had the opportunity to chair the Mental Health Committee, and she was working with my office on protecting seriously emotionally disturbed children from dramatic changes in the commercial and Medicaid environment that were cutting services to those children, and we did some work together to try to protect seriously emotionally disturbed children from commercial managed care plans and Medicaid managed care plans and make sure that their services stayed intact. The controversies that have erupted over test policy in the state of New York, and which Merrill Tisch was involved with, I don't think a lot of the difficulties were caused by her. I mean, let's face facts. The No Child Left Behind law passed by Congress, and then the various methods of implementing those laws, annual professional performance review, these were passed by the state legislature. And so when the regents in the state education department were implementing the laws passed by Congress and the legislature, they may have made mistakes in proceeding down the path in terms of how the public was reacting and maybe misunderstanding by going too fast, but they were attempting to implement laws passed by us and Congress. So it wasn't just their fault. At the same time, the state of New York, the legislature, was cutting the budget of the state education department. They had many, many fewer staff. So she was doing the best she could with a difficult situation and with a lack of resources, but she pursued the many challenges and did many wonderful things, both in her life and in her tenure as the chancellor and as a member of the Regents. And so I have nothing but the greatest respect for her and wish her the best as she moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cahill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chancellor Tisch was a regent for 2 decades. And in the sophomore period of that term, when she was not a brand new regent, but she was not yet chancellor, I served as the chair of the Task Force on People with Disabilities. And then Regent Tisch came into my office to talk to me about a problem that she felt was in dire need of attention. And that was that children in our educational system with disabilities got some help. But the day they graduated from high school or the day they finished with high school, we pushed them off a cliff and we stopped taking care of them. And she came to me as the task force chair and she asked me if I would work with her to try to change that. She said there were tools within the educational system that could be used to help those young people transition into becoming useful, productive, and in many instances, independent citizens. She knew that the system was not all it needed to be for adults with disabilities. Her focus, her career in those 20 years was on the children of this state, but her heart was with all of the people of the state. Her work in the area of disabilities is something that should never be forgotten. When I read her self-criticism, I thought to myself, that's exactly right. That's the Merrill who came into my office one day and said, we have to fix this intractable problem. She is indeed a woman that I look up to. In fact, among women that I look up to, she is a woman that they look up to. We were very fortunate to have her service, and I congratulate her on this resolution.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate Merrill Tisch on her long run doing education policy in New York State. And 2 things really struck me in my dealings with Merrill Tisch. And one is she was happy to take your phone call if she knew you were going to agree with her, but she was also happy to take your phone call if you were going to disagree with her. So there was a lot of policies that came out of the Board of Regents that I was happy to support, and there were some policies that I disagreed with. But either way, Merrill Tisch would pick up that phone and engage in a healthy debate. And you know, on a side note, on a personal basis, Merrill Tisch always showed great civility and hospitality. So I wish her well in her future endeavors, but I will remember her for being always open to debate, and 2, always being very civil, regardless of whether or not you agreed with her. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Fahey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, want to join in thanking Regent Tisch, or Chancellor Tisch, for her 2 decades of service. I entered this body just 3 years ago, and I have to say it was during probably one of the most tumultuous times in the last couple of decades in education, on a national level as well as here in the state. And as a first-term member, I too felt that she was incredibly responsive in terms of taking calls and in terms of trying to at least hear the concerns, particularly as somebody whose children were in urban schools and in the quote-unquote struggling or failing schools. She sought us out a couple of times, and I want to note one particular issue. While we may have disagreed at the time with my very serious concerns about the testing or over-testing, if you will. Her professionalism really came through, And when the former commissioner of education, John King, when one of the forums on testing didn't go as well, and all of those forums across the state then were canceled, there was quite an uproar over it, quite an uproar. And I'm very grateful that I received a call to see if we could try again here in Albany. And I assured her we would work in one of our schools with the League of Women Voters, try to get those started, because people really wanted to have a voice, to be heard on the issue, whether she or the commissioner or anybody else agreed or disagreed with the concerns of parents and teachers. And she brought that forum, restarted those forums here in Albany. It was a very, very long night. I think we had almost 70 speakers that night. While she was not here, the commissioner kindly sat through all of those, and then the forums restarted around the state. And I, too, appreciated her comments last week in the press that maybe it was too much too soon. I believe we're in a much, much better place in education this year, and I commend the work of this body as well as the governor and others for getting us to that place. And I think history will serve the chancellor well, and again, thank her for her service. Thank you.
Ms. Glick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to rise to honor Chancellor Tisch. She did an incredible amount of work over 20 years. A lot of the members have been here maybe only 6 or 8 years and don't know the full scope of what Merrill Tisch accomplished in her tenure on the Board of Regents. And as Chancellor, she had a vision. And as people have referenced, she herself said maybe she pushed too fast, too hard. But sometimes when people feel passion and commitment, many of us push hard, and we try to get things done right away. So I don't think that those are legitimate criticisms that wouldn't be true of many of us. And she was more self-reflective than many of us have been. I personally found her to be warm and engaging. Whether we agreed on something or not, she was more than willing to not only have a dialogue, but she brought people to schools in districts across the state. She's been in towns that many of us from downstate didn't know existed. She was willing to go anywhere to meet with people. She worked hard. I don't know what time of day she got up, but I frequently was barely getting ready to leave the house, and she was calling me because she had read something in the paper, and personally on a couple of instances when it was not the most flattering comment about me, she called to tell me how outraged she was that somebody had taken a shot at me because she knew that it wasn't true. She was someone who contributed tremendously to the state of New York. I know will continue to do so. I appreciate what was said about the philanthropic work regarding various arts education and educational institutions. She's a very committed New Yorker, a civic-minded New Yorker who, frankly, could have done a lot of other things and didn't need the aggravation. She chose to dedicate her time and energy to education, which was her passion, but she did a lot of other things and didn't forget where she had come from, which was not the rarefied area that she may have wound up living now, but she remembered what it was like to be an average New Yorker and was committed to all of those people because she wanted everyone to succeed, especially her concern about children who were not succeeding because our school system is too segregated and too isolated for those who are of lesser means. Children who go to public school, who have the opportunity to get additional tutoring, can get by. But she felt that the schools needed to do the full job, and they weren't all in a position to do so because they didn't have the resources. And she was not just passionate about changing it, but it troubled her deeply. And she felt it deeply, and I think that's why she felt so committed to pushing as hard as she did. I think that her tenure will be looked upon very favorably in the years to come, and I hope that she will remain involved and committed to the issues that I know she cares about. I'm very pleased that we have taken time today when everybody wants to go home to say thank you to Dr. Tisch for all that she did for New York and New York's children.
Thank you, Ms. Glick. Mr. Morelli, to close.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't want the moment to pass without saying a few words about my friend Meryl Tisch. I had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Tisch for nearly 20 years. Had the opportunity to meet her first on a trip to Israel and spent time with her, and of course over the last 2 decades during her involvement with education, both in and out of her tenure as a member of the Board of Regents and Chancellor. I've had many opportunities to engage with her. She is, as all my colleagues have said, and I want to thank each of them for their comments, particularly the chair of our Education Committee, Ms. Nolan. She is a distinguished New Yorker who is dedicated, smart, and the thing that I have enormous respect for her is that in her responsibilities comes with it a degree of controversy. And as I like to say to people back home when we talk about education policy and the challenges we might have, at least we're all talking about the right thing. It's the future of our children and what we think will advance their interests. And she was not one to shy away from controversy. She would do what she thought was best, even if she disagreed with you. But she is an extraordinary individual, an extraordinary woman, and she is a very, very dear friend. And I appreciate all that she has done for the children of New York to make this state a better place for those young people to grow up. And I know that, as others have said, she will continue to contribute significantly to the life of New Yorkers. And I just wanted to get up and pay my respects and thank her for her incredible service and indicate my pride in calling her a friend. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Morelli. On the resolution, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is adopted. We have numerous other resolutions. We'll take them up in one vote. On the resolutions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The resolutions are adopted. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see Ms. Schimmel is preparing to make an announcement. If you could call on her, please.
Ms. Schimmel, for the purposes of an announcement.
Yes, I am ready, Mr. Speaker. There will be a majority conference in the Speaker's conference room following the close of session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority conference, Speaker's conference room. Mr. Morelli.
I now move that the Assembly stand adjourned until March 18th, tomorrow being a legislative day, and that we all reconvene on Monday, March 21st at 2 p.m., Monday being a session day.
The Assembly stands adjourned.